All right, thank you, Lindsay. Well, as you know, just a huge ruling today from the Supreme Court that same-sex marriage will be lawful in all 50 states. Political analyst Dallas Jones joining us now to just break this down a little bit more. Thank you for being here with us to talk about this. Let's just start from the very beginning. What does this mean? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone knows that it happened, but break it down a little in depth for us.
So there was a case before the Supreme Court that basically asked the court two questions. The first question was whether or not states could actually ban marriage licenses and between same-sex couples. The second question was whether or not states had to actually acknowledge the 11 or so states that issued them. Well, the court said yes, that states should issue same-sex marriage licenses, and it made the second question a null and void.
All right, let's talk about now. There was a little bit of resistance on this, but you said even after reading through some of the resistance that there were good points brought up.
Well, you know, in reading Chief Justice Roberts' dissenting opinion about the case, one of the things that he pointed out was that it was an issue of states' rights, and that it's an issue of whether or not the state could decide its own fate, and that it was not the role of the court to legislate, rather to interpret the law. And so, you know, the opinion of the minority was that we were overstepping our constitutional reach.
And you were not surprised at all that it was a 5-4 vote, were you?
Absolutely not.
In fact, we had you in our studio, and just minutes before we found out, maybe seconds, that was your determination or your prediction.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the political ideology of the court. I knew that Justice Kennedy would be the swing vote on this one, and he was. I read the last paragraph in his opinion, and it was one of the most absolutely beautiful legal writings I've ever read.
We heard from the president just a little while ago, and he had some poignant things to say, some important things to say about hoping that it almost heals America, that people finally feel like and can start treating people all the same. Do you feel like a ruling like this might make people who weren't so open-minded about same-sex marriage change their minds and maybe be more accepting of it now?
Well, you know, I think it's going to be a culture shift for our country. I had a conversation on the way here where I stated, you know, I wonder if this is reminiscent of Brown versus the Board of Education. It changed our country forever. As we look down the road, what was acceptable in 1954 is no longer acceptable today, and Brown helped to pave the way to that. So I think we'll see in years to come that people will be a lot more tolerant.
And right now we're just still seeing that there's a problem with the form. I guess all of that's going to probably be hopefully fixed quickly, and it sounds like they're trying to make it work, because for people who are anxious right now, it seems like they've had a little bit of problem today.
Absolutely, and I think what we saw after Brown versus Board of Education was a need for Brown 2, which said all deliberate speed. Right. And so I think what you'll see in some of the resistant states are a number of barriers to try to make this not so easy for people to get licenses. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening, right, but the reality of it is there have been some complications in folks actually getting processed as soon as the court decision came down. And understandably, there are some changes that I'm sure had to be made. I'm not sure what they are. I'm not in that business, but it's going to take some adjustment.
All right, Dallas Jones, good to have you in our studios today. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
Good to be here.
We'll be right back.